Hello and welcome to the Back of the Nest Match Report. I'm Chris Hambling and I'm your host today as Vieira's Palace made it 6 unbeaten with a highly professional victory against Wolves at Selhurst Park. Goals from Wilfried, Zaha and Conor Gallagher in an improved second half saw the Eagles take 3 deserved points and gain more attention from the footballing world on the style and performances being delivered. And we'll talk about the hows and whys on the show today. So with me this week I have Nick. Hello Nick.
All right, how you doing? Nice to hear you again, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like we haven't just had a 10-minute chat before this. Yeah. And we've also got Caragh. Hi, Caragh.
Hello, how's everyone?
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, you've got to have so many enjoyable chats with Nick. Oh, just out of interest, before we started recording, I'm aware I left my mic up while I was eating and things. Did you hear anything from me, or did I get away with that?
This isn't going to be a guess what I was having for dinner because there was lots of slurp, so I'm going with a posh pot noodle.
No, I didn't. You got a guess, Caragh?
Oh, okay. If it's not a pot now, I was going to go down the noodle route. So I'll go for some kind of curry, maybe. Okay, I mean, good guesses. What we actually did, and we're not sponsored by Gausto, but I do Gausto meal deliveries. And today it was some, I've completely forgotten what's in it, but some pastry parcel things with crispy kale and sweet potato and potato crisps and a lovely onion marmalade mayonnaise. Wow. So where did the slurping come from?
My inability to eat with a blocked nose. It is a challenge.
Sucking up the dribble.
It's pretty much, yeah, I'm going to be honest, that's pretty much what it was. So, it was hot as well because obviously I cooked it with my girlfriend just before we started recording and had to eat it very quickly so we could actually get this show done. And, a bit hot. So that was also the slurping. That's my excuse and I'm going to stick to it. I mean, it'd be rude of me not to check in what you've had for dinner. Just start, Nick.
I had chilli. Rachel's been away all weekend, so it's been takeaways all weekend because I can't be bothered to cook for the kids. But I had a very busy day of netball today. I went to a gig on Friday and football yesterday, and my daughter was at the cinema watching The Eternals. And so I didn't get back till 9, so it was Chinese last night. Although I did go to Waitrose for the first time in a long time, and their ham is much more expensive than Lidl.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And ironically, that's probably the one thing from Lidl that you can get of decent quality.
Yes.
You are a very active man for a man of your vintage, Nick. I'm impressed.
Yes.
That was mean of me. I apologise. How about you, Caragh? What did you have?
I had one of those, one of those days where you're just kind of cooking up what you've got left in the fridge. So I had some Brussels sprouts, getting in early with the sprouts, cooked with some onions and then a frozen peanut bake burger thingy and some scrambled tofu. So this was the terrible day to ask me what I had for dinner because that makes no sense.
It makes me really happy that I did on a day where you have to really excuse yourself for what you've done. But no, that's great. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about our feelings on Brussels sprouts over the Christmas period, I imagine. That's a feature of all of our Christmas shows, Sprout Talk. If you want to get your comments in early about sprouts, just email hi@backofthenest.com.
Attention, Mikey.
Yeah, attention, Mikey. Yeah, Mikey wants to hear about all of your sprout views. If you could, get really specific as well.
I'm very happy to rep the sprouts.
Me too, actually. Yeah.
That down, for sure.
But no more spoilers.
At Christmas, I put lolly sticks into sprouts, dipped them in melted chocolate, put them in the fridge, then gave them to my children. Oh, the look on their faces.
Oh,
I don't know whether to call them Brussels pops or lolly sprouts, but
both are good.
I'm definitely stealing that idea.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Anyway, I guess we better talk about some Palace news this week. So first up, the Palace women beat top of the table Durham 3-1. So it was Bianca Baptiste, Siobhan Marie Wilson and Millie Farrow who put 3 past Durham side, who hadn't actually conceded in their last 5 games, the last of which was in the 94th minute. And that gives the Palace women's team an unbeaten spell of 5 games and puts them 5th in the table. And who put this in here? Just 1 point behind Charlton. There are lots of 5s in that. 5th, 5 games unbeaten. Durham hadn't conceded in 5. I love it.
All the 5s.
All the 5s. That was that's a fantastic performance. Always pleasing to see any of the Palace sides doing well, but beating a very impressive top of the table Durham side, that's not an easy thing, and really building up some momentum, the team there, and hopefully people are able to watch the games as much as humanly possible right now, because there's some good football being played there. Talking about some good football being played, the under-23 is a bit of a mix actually, but the under-23s did lose to Blackburn on the Monday, lost 2-1. Most people probably would have seen that because it was the first we'd seen of Eze, played 62 minutes during that game. Looked relatively comfortable and spoke really well on Palace TV afterwards. And if anyone saw the game, Palace really created an awful lot of chances and probably should have won that game at a canter, but I can't remember the guy's name, but the Blackburn striker, Butterworth, I think it was. He just looked very, very, very good. And ultimately, I think it was his play that kind of won the day there. But the 23s did very, very well at the weekend, winning 2-1 against Chelsea. Obviously, Chelsea, one of the strongest sides around at that level and below, and above, I guess. So they had 8 shots on target compared to Chelsea's 1 goal. And Eze, the aforementioned, played the full 90 minutes in the game.
Hey.
So, yeah. He came off in the 93rd minute, but that's still over 90 minutes that he played. So on his way back for sure. And the Palace goals came from Scott Banks and Jezrin Raksaki. So great stuff there. Incredibly, the 18s actually lost a game. That hasn't happened for a while, I don't think. But it seemed to be a very, very exciting game, losing 4-3 to Chelsea. Unfortunately, didn't catch it myself. Anyone watch it before I say any more?
No.
No,
well, somebody watched it, but I didn't.
Well, yeah, no, plenty of people watched it, but none of us 3, of course. Yeah,
John Texter did.
Yeah, John Texter did. Yeah.
Are you sure your cats didn't watch it, Nick?
No.
Only Italian football they're interested in.
Only the Milan derby. He's back now for the second half.
We've got to leave our pre-show chatting, otherwise that makes no sense at all. Who cares? Anyway, so they did lose 4-3. I might think I'm right in saying that they were 3-0 down, came back to 3-3, and then lost 4-3 in the end. There was 2 more goals for Victor Akamwale, who's doing tremendously well at that level, and the other goal coming from Ola Adebayomi. But 6th in the league on goal difference, Arsenal and Fulham above on 17 points. But it's a tight league, that one, and the 18s are a very, very talented bunch, so I'm sure they won't let that defeat affect them too much. I think I'm also right in saying I can't remember the exact numbers, but there were plenty of international call-ups from that level as well. I think Jaden Rodney, Joe Whitworth. Oh, dear, I want to say more. Raksaki was in the under-20 squad. I think Wells Morrison's in there, in the England under-18s. I know, lots of call-ups. Check the official Palace site for the full list, but getting some real attention at academy level now, especially after obviously Southgate opening the new academy site as well. I think the reputation for Palace has always been good at academy level, but it's growing all the time now. Lovely to see the players getting some good international recognition. Finally, in the news this week, we back of the nest will be hopefully going to plan, and hopefully you'll hear this in time. But on Monday, the 8th of November, probably the day this releases, we'll be on the BBC London fan show, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. It'll be myself, Nick, and Mike on that this week. Back with Aaron Paul, not the one from Breaking Bad, but the accomplished BBC journalist and sportscaster who we worked with on Love Sport. Many of you do remember those shows. It was a lot of fun because we talked an awful lot of rubbish. But we'll be back trying out the fan shows on BBC London, and I believe that will run semi-regularly until the end of the season. So do check that out if you can.
Let's hope that no London teams sack their manager in the intervening time, which is what happened last week.
Yeah, we were due to be on last week, but something happened at a certain London club involving a certain manager. So
bloody cont.
From that. But fingers crossed all goes to plan this week for us. Very much looking forward to that. A lot of fun when we used to do that on Love Sport, wasn't it, Nick? So should be the same type of vibe,
Yeah.
but on a wider audience.
And it was so long ago. It was when we signed Nathan Ferguson.
Amazing, well done.
I can remember.
Sorry, hold on.
Big chats.
Hold on. 1 sec. We need to retake that, Nick. So bear with me a second. It was so long ago. Can you say that again, please?
You're going to play something now. It was so long ago. We signed Nathan Ferguson.
There we go. Right,
Yay.
that's that sorted.
Is this why you were so long before the show? You were setting up this kind of sound effects suite of some description, or have you got your girlfriend in the background with a drum kit
and a piano?
So that was me being pensive and thinking to that music. Anyway, off we go. So it's time for the Wolves game.
No, before you go on, this would never have happened under Roy. Would it?
My mood is very different at the moment. Getting to watch a good football team that's playing progressive football, and actually, trying, backing ourselves, backing our ability, and it makes
it does make a whole difference to go into the game. It doesn't seem like a chore, and before we get into the match, even the atmosphere in the stadium, everybody's smiling, everybody's anticipating a performance rather than thinking, "Oh, what shite have we got to put up with now?"
Exactly.
It's like all the people who hate themselves have stopped going. I'm not saying you, Chris, because obviously you've got health issues, but people who like misery are leaving in their droves, whatever a drove is. People leaving droves. I've never known what a drove is, but there you go.
Well, yeah. Well, I think if you want to know what a drove is, it's usually at the Amex around minute 84. That is a drove. You get to see one there.
You got a budum-bumch for that one, Chris.
Yeah, I can't self budum. It's just not what you do.
You'd be budum-tooching all the time, wouldn't you?
Exactly right. Excuse me. So look, general game summary. I think we can say that the first half wasn't amazing, but Palace were dominant, by far the better side. But struggled to create a little bit, and I dare say we'll talk about that in more detail. The second half was a lot better. We just, if anything, really, the first sort of couple of minutes of the second half, I was a bit worried. But once we got our foot on the ball again, you could see we were much more focused, much more clinical in what we did. And I just want to start, if I will, weirdly, start at the end with Patrick Vieira's comments after the game. And I just think this to me sums up why Vieira is winning the plaudits. It's not just about what we see on the pitch, but why he's getting the buy-in that he's getting from the players, why they're happy to go with him on this journey. They're happy to back their own ability. They're not afraid of making mistakes. They just want to grow and develop as a team. He came out and talked about the fact that the dressing room was happy, but it was these comments that I thought were most important. He started saying, "I think that today we showed the team is getting this kind of maturity to perform week after week in the Premier League. We knew it'd be a difficult game, and we had a really good performance." But then he made the point. He said we didn't play as well as we want to, but we were patient. We kept our organisation. And to come out after that performance and still say we didn't play as well as we wanted to, I find that really encouraging, and it's different from, previous seasons where at the end of the game we were often told that, it was, the other team were just better than us, or we were told that, the players didn't carry out the instructions like they were told and that kind of stuff. This to me is a whole different thing, having a manager who demands really high standards, but is doing it in a really positive way, in an encouraging way. I think his reputation obviously carries a lot, and I think that's why a lot of the players were with him straight away. But you can tell he was in the the Arsenal unbeatable side. He was a legend as a player, and he knows what it means to have high standards, and I think that's really coming across.
Edouard, do we pronounce the D at the end? I don't know whether we do.
Up
or
to
not.
you. I'll let you. If you want to pronounce it, I won't. I won't ever go at you.
Odson Edouard actually said he joined Palace because of Vieira. That was the reason he wanted to play under the best. And I think he's slightly in awe of him. And I think all the players are so in awe of him, they'll do what he says. They're all doing double training. They're not complaining too much about it. And they're seeing the results. I can almost cry because I never thought I'd see this quality of football at Palace.
Yep.
For a long time. And it's just gives me so much pleasure that I've got no words. So it's going to be a brilliant podcast.
Difficult. You might have some words, Cara. If you try.
I'll try and get them out. It's the ambition, I think, for me that is so exciting, and I don't want to speak for Nick, but I think is part of what's emotional about it is like, this isn't it. Like, there's an agreement across everybody. We're all looking at each other being like, oh God, this is Palace. But we also know, as you said, Chris, like that the manager's also demanding more. Like, they're not just saying, oh, this is great and this is good enough. And I think it's about we've got a manager that doesn't see us as a small club. And I think the whole small club, big club thing is a real chip maybe on quite a lot of our shoulders to be seen as a club that can build and can go further. And we've now got a manager that really believes in that and has a plan of how we're going to get there. And I think that is just incredibly exciting. It's allowing us all to enjoy the football that we're watching at the moment, but with the view of like, bloody hell, like what comes next? And it's almost like a little bit daunting because I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for us to like be even better than this yet.
No, exactly. It's almost, you don't want to think about it to some degree. You don't want to think, well, hold on, when Elise is fully up and running, whenever Eze is back, and imagine the idea of trying to fit all of those forward players into the side and into a cohesive unit, when there's more challenge in other areas of the pitch as well as other players come back, thinking about the full-back areas. It's, at the moment, the team, you can't argue with any of the team selections because the players are almost picking themselves. And I highlight Ward as someone who I have said I see a need to replace, but he has stepped up to a level this season that, again, I have probably for the fourth season in a row, I didn't necessarily think we'd see from him again. And, he's really stepped up, in terms of his ability on the ball. That's the thing that scares me a little bit. Him going forward, being the modern day fullback. But there's no doubt from under Vieira, he is a better player in the right back position than he has been for a while. And that's just one example.
Talking of going right to the end at the beginning, Ward at the end, keeping the ball at the corner flag. What's he doing up there? He was smiling and laughing because that's right by where I sit. It was bloody marvellous to watch. Three of them there. It was reminiscent of when Ayew and Benteke were doing it against West Ham that time. It was that joyous. And long may it continue.
Yeah, exactly. You love to see it because that's, for Joe Ward to be in that position doing that at the end of a game, that's someone playing with confidence and freedom. That's what comes from having a setup that, of people that believe in you. And we shouldn't be, it's not just all about having a different manager. We have really invested very well and very sensibly in the team and brought talent in. But the key thing is we're bringing that talent in. We're playing that talent, and we're backing them. And we're not asking them to change who they are. If you think, I'll use Conor Gallagher as an example. If you take Conor Gallagher when we targeted him last season, if you'd brought him into that team last season, you would not see the same player we see in this system under Vieira. It's incredibly freeing to have people, to have a manager who says this is the way we're going to play, because all footballers will probably tell you they want to be the dominant team, they want to be winning matches, and they want to be attacking, and that's what we're seeing.
Do you think there'll be players looking enviously at Palace now and think, I want to go there?
Definitely. I think so. I really think so. I think that's a huge part of what we've got to offer at the moment. And who knows what happened in January? Maybe we'll talk about that a bit later. But that it's got to be, when you see that combination of like playing under an exciting manager that clearly understands players, understands how to work with players, understands how to develop them, and you've got the opportunity to come and play at like Selhurst Park, where you've got like fans behind you every step of the way, even when things aren't going perfect. Like, okay, maybe not players that are going to go to the top clubs, but for any other players that are looking at a club to go to, that has got to be a hugely exciting prospect to come and play for a club like us at the moment.
Yeah, totally agree. It's night and day from where we were. Players in the summer. You think about Townsend, you can understand. We wanted to talk to him about a contract, but we kind of left it too late in a sense. But you can understand why he wanted to go. because his experience over the last couple of seasons was being converted from an attacking winger to a kind of defensive wing back at times, and that's not how they want to play. And Wilf's frustration of the last few years, he's been very professional when he's been interviewed about it. Wilf, he's talked about that we wanted to attack before. I think I saw an interview with him after the City game, I think it was, where he talked about the fact that he was asked, is it now the team are attacking so much more? Is it completely different to last season? And he was kind of like, well, we did try and attack last year. We're just doing things differently, and we just got more talent, and people are being backed more. So, I think, the fact that he's not, there's not been hundreds of stories in the press about where he's going next and him leaving in January or anything like that. I think he's much more satisfied than he was. So it's really positive stuff.
I think is as well that, but like we shout out the new players that have come in and how well they've done, but as you just touched upon there, I think the players that stayed, their ability to have adapted to such a stark different way of playing, and kind of welcome those new players in and have that combination of like that little bit of experience, but then those new players coming in, and they gelled so quickly. Like I can't imagine that is easy for the players that have been knackered playing for the last couple of years the way that we've been playing, and without any strength in depth, to adjust that quickly to play in this style, as kind of freeing as it and as exciting as it is for them. I think it's massive credit due to them for how hard they're working to adjust so quickly. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I think let's talk a little bit more about how the game went though, and we have talked about the fact that the first half. I mean, I think Caragh, this is you saying that you felt that there seemed to be a struggle, but that struggle might be a strong word. How did you find that first half?
Yeah, I think so. At half time, I felt really frustrated, but it wasn't frustrated in a negative sense towards our players. It was kind of almost feeling their frustration in a way, because I think, my interpretation of it, the Wolves clocked very quickly that they didn't really have much to offer going forwards, and probably weren't going to get that many chances to break us down, and they were going to struggle holding us off. And the amount of possession that we have now, all that Wolves kind of managed to do, I think, maybe I'm being biased, but it's fine, was to try and kind of push us back while we retained possession, and that's fine. But then I just felt there was some really, really kind of good movements forwards and some really patient kind of builds up of play, and then we got it into the box, and then we just couldn't. It just wasn't quite working when we were trying to finish off the chance, and so I felt quite frustrated by that. But like I say, not in a negative sense, but because I felt like we were deserving to get that finishing that finished product, and it just wasn't quite happening. I felt like sometimes we were a little bit kind of bunched up as well, I think, going forwards. And then as soon as we were pushed back, we spread out a bit to protect against that. In the second half, I think that changed a little bit. But there were a few frustrations for me in that sense in the first half.
Yeah, it felt like the first half felt like a lot of the earlier games in the season where we were great up to the final third, and it was just that final ball. And it wasn't until we got the decision on the Wilf goal, lovely pass to him by Caragh, by the way, that the other team actually opened up a bit. And I think that's going to be our difficulty this season, is we're going to have teams where they've got a lot of players sitting behind the ball, and unless we can break through them, it is going to be frustrating. And it just seemed to hark back to the start of the season. However, we have got players now that can unlock teams, and it is about being patient and not being frustrated and taking pot shots and taking it out on each other or moaning at each other. It's just keep going and it will come. Hopefully.
Well, this is it as well. When we go back to talking about the manager again, of course, in those situations. So before, when teams gave us the ball over the last, you can probably go a few seasons back now, when you talk about when teams would give us the ball and we wouldn't know what the hell to do with it, because we kind of naturally wanted to counter-attack. But again, you're talking about a manager who played in a side that it was all about patience, wasn't it? It was all about waiting for that opportunity, because everybody, when Vieira was at his peak and Arsenal were at their peak, opposition, you think about the games they used to play against the likes of Bolton, I can remember under Allardyce, where the whole thing would be, kick them, sit back with everybody behind the ball, don't put any kind of effort into attacking. I can remember Wenger going mad about it when when it wouldn't go right. But their whole philosophy was about being patient, keeping the ball, moving it around, making the opposition run, and eventually wearing teams down. So he's obviously bringing that philosophy into Palace, because that's what we saw yesterday. We saw a first half where we sometimes didn't do things the right way, and we sometimes rushed that final pass, and we sometimes people weren't quite taking the right positions up in the box. We kind of sat too deep in midfield at times, and that was why we were unable to create an absolutely golden chance for ourselves. But we didn't panic. We learnt from it, and we were able to push on in the second half.
And the good thing is we can counter-attack when we need to. I mean, you look back last week at the Manchester City game, the goals we scored there, and there were a couple of breaks we had. Benteke just couldn't quite get the ball out to Edouard in the first half, could he? Which would have seen a goal. So if teams are going to push us, they're always going to be aware that we can counter because we got quick players. On the wearing people down thing, again, we're going to talk about Eze coming back later in the show, and the subs, I know you're going to talk about later. But, wearing teams down when they're knackered and you're bringing these sort of players on, it's got to be a winning combination.
Yeah, it has. And look, we're in a place now where, okay, we started the season with a couple of key players out. And if you go back to the Chelsea game where we weren't great, and, first and foremost, we couldn't play Gallagher in that game, which I think made a big impact. But also, you think about the fact that the team wasn't quite ready. But we might find in the future, if we've got a couple of players out for whatever reason, whether it's suspensions, whether it's injuries or anything, we might see a bit more of a test. But right now, with the squad as it is, it's at times it almost feels it's a weird feeling. I don't want to say like an embarrassment of riches, but it's quite close, because when you look at the bench and you think about the options we've got on the bench to change a game, and there's obviously a clamour for Elise to start because of the impact he makes. But right now, the best impact he can have is probably off the bench, if we're 100% honest.
Yeah.
And that's a shame for him, because I'm sure he wants to start week in, week out like any player. But it's a fantastic way for him to bed in at Premier League level.
Just out of interest, do you have an embarrassment of riches sound effect? I'm just wondering what it would be like.
I don't. I think the best that I could give you with that is maybe we could. I mean, all I've got left, honestly, is this. Does that work at all?
Are you playing that live?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Carl, you were going to say something.
No, it's okay. I think it might have gone out of my head. I started thinking about what would that sound effect be, and then any kind of actual football content has gone out of my brain. Come back.
Apologies. No worries at all. That is Nick's fault. You've got Nick to blame. I had no part in that. Let's talk about the first goal, and obviously came in the second half. You've already mentioned it briefly, Nick, but it was it was just a sensational pass from James MacArthur. And he was. I think there were cries of shoot, but just to see him pass that ball, and unfortunately for me, still not being able to get to games, which I'm hoping will change soon. I was actually able to pass my ticket on this week, which was pleasing that somebody got to go in my place, and there was no empty place for me. But anyway, I didn't see Wilf wasn't in the camera shot when the ball was played, so my initial thought was, what's he doing? Why has he played that?
Widescreen TV.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. But there he was. There he was, and I'll be honest, genuinely, even though you couldn't see that the line had flagged immediately, as soon as it became apparent that he had been flagged for offside, I just didn't think it was. I was absolutely convinced, even before I saw a replay, that he was onside, because he was looking well across the line, and I just thought defender in the centre seems easily as far back as Wilf was when the ball was played. There's no way he's got ahead of it. So it was really pleasing to see that overruled. And let's face it, the referees did make a couple of fairly clear mistakes during the course of the game. But really pleasing that one. Go on, Nick.
To be honest, people around me thought it was Edouard who was offside, with the initial ball that came out to him. He was the one that passed the ball into MacArthur. We thought it was him getting the ball, and he might have been offside because we could see that Zaha wasn't. And the Linos have been flagging very, very late this season, so we thought it was that.
Well, actually, that shows the value. Sometimes I get frustrated with the fact that they let play continue and then flag, but that was actually well worth doing because, Wilf we got to finish the move, didn't we? Because the pass, collecting it, and then Wilf's finish. He spoke himself about it as well. I'll get those comments in a sec, but once you complete the move, then you flag offside. It gives you that, it allows play to continue as it would have done. So it means the mistake doesn't really matter at the end of it. So I was quite pleased with that working the way it did. But as much as we talk about the pass from MacArthur, the finish from Zaha was fantastic. And obviously that's the 51st Premier League goal he scored now after his 50th against City. And, you look at that and you just think, actually, if we're honest, he really probably should have scored more. And I know he talked about that and the fact that he's really happy to have scored that many. But a player of his ability, I think, had he played in some better Palace sides under some more forward-thinking managers at times, I think that figure would be a lot higher and he would deserve it more. But it's lovely to see him getting in those positions and finishing with that level of confidence. It made me very happy indeed. But yeah, he was talking about it after the game. And he said, all he thought as it came through was composure and finish it. And I thought that really showed in the way he put the ball away. And then he's just talking about the idea of, don't celebrate like a madman. But it's part of the game now. And that's a shame, losing that kind of insanity of celebration from the players. But I've always said, if I'm going to celebrate, I'm not going to worry about whether it's VAR or not. If I celebrate a goal like a madman and then I get the abuse from the opposition fans for when it's disallowed, I'll take that rather than sit around and wait to see if a decision's given before I celebrate. So then in that case, I get to celebrate twice. Once when it goes in, and once when the VAR does the right thing. So.
That's it. That's definitely how I felt in the stand because I'm not the tallest person in the world. So when everybody's standing up and something's happening quite near the goal, I don't always see it. So I wasn't making a judgment on whether it was offside or not, but just celebrated it for what it was, and then got to celebrate it again when the VAR decision came. So it was great. It really really gave us our money's worth, I think, for celebrations.
Exactly. So that's the positive side of VAR. Obviously, when it goes against you, not so much. But so there was another call as well with the penalty decision. How was that from the game? I'll ask you, Caragh, what you think first, because obviously it was a bit clumsy from Ward. And someone said to me that I was being a bit harsh when I said it was an awful challenge because it looked like he slipped and kind of fell into him. But it just to me like it's one of those things where you get suckered in and make a challenge that you didn't need to because cover was there. Yeah,
I think that's right. I think so. The initial challenge it was up the other side of the pitch, so I didn't really have that much of a great view of seeing it initially. So my first proper view of it was when they replayed it doing the VAR decision, and when you see it and you're kind of like, oh, and then you realise that it's outside the box, so you kind of do a sigh of relief. But I turned to Dio at that point. I said, I wonder if that was is that kind of taking that what would seem to be an unnecessary risk a bit of a hangover from the panic of not losing that that lead that we had, and maybe in a couple of games time when we've continued, fingers crossed, to kind of not experience those equalisers, maybe those kind of risk takes will drop off a little bit. But I can very easily forgive him for it because it wasn't a penalty, but also because of everything else he did in the game. Like it's not, I don't think it's something that anyone's going to hold against him, but I think it's just something to kind of hopefully over the next couple of games, with the confidence of being able to see out these games, those kind of risks and little lapses of maybe a little bit of panic or whatever it was that was set in will ease off a bit.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a really good observation. Yeah, there's going to be in the players' heads, even though great clean sheet against City in the previous game, that sort of panic, that kind of instinctive kind of strong desire to stop things before it goes too far. That's going to happen if you're desperate to make up for things that have gone on in the past. And as you say, if we can kind of keep that stability, it's two clean sheets in a row, and try and keep that going. Those things will start to move away, especially as those players get more and more used to playing each other. It's weird to think that those two centre-backs are both new into that side, given how we play, because the full-backs and the keeper are having to get used to that. And clearly the work being done on the training ground and the work being done in games is paying dividends, because they look like they've played together for a very long time at the moment. And we're seeing fewer and fewer mistakes. And that's why people are sitting up and taking notice of Palace right now. I got a text from a Chelsea friend at the weekend who just said, what the hell is going on with you lot? Because you look an incredible side right now. And, that's, for someone to sort of out of the blue suddenly see that in a Palace side is really pleasing for me. And he certainly wasn't the only one thinking that. You see it all across social media as well. People are suddenly starting to go, oh, okay, that side we kind of think we should be getting 3 points against. They've only lost 2 games all season. They've had the hardest start in the league. What the hell? What's going to happen with them?
No one wants to play us, mate. I'm telling you, exactly. Nobody wants to play us at the moment.
Especially not at home.
No, indeed. So let's talk a little bit about Gallagher's goal then. If anyone, I guess, deserved that little bit of luck with a deflection at the end, it's Conor Gallagher, right?
I've just looked at it again. It's coming from a free kick that Mitchell's put in from out on the left near the halfway line. Now, he's floated the ball into Benteke. Now, as the ball's coming in, Gallagher's wandered away from Wolves players to near sort of the edge of the D. And he knows either Benteke's either going to win the header and lay it back to him, or the Wolves defender's going to head it out and hopefully it will come that way. And there's a couple of other Palace players in there as well if the ball goes loose. He's anticipated where the ball's going to come out on the second phase there and just run in with it and stepped inside. And a little bit like Benteke's been doing, step inside and then shoot. Wicked deflection. But you're right, he did deserve it. But it was, you say luck, his positioning, how he's got such vision at such a young age. Now, whether it's him having that vision or whether he's going where Mr. Vieira tells him to go, I don't know. But it's whatever it is, it's working.
Well, definitely. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to back that up. He is always like 2 or 3 moves ahead, isn't he, basically? And he's just calculating all of the different things that could happen from that position and where he needs to be to kind of sweep something up. And just exactly what Nick said, that kind of vision and that being able to play so well in the moment, but also being in the right position for what could come in 2 or 3 passes time is just mind-blowing, really.
It is, yeah. It's forward thinking. He's always, the fact that he's popping up in both boxes all of the time. What he brings to the team is, realistically, it's what we have been missing when we've been playing defensive midfielders for so much of games. We've seen it way too much over the last few years. The kind of acceptance that we're a weaker side and we have to pack the midfield and all this kind of stuff, but. I think he makes a massive difference, and we'll talk about him a bit more in a sec. We'll just round off the match chat. We've got to mention very quickly the subs. There's not too much to say about it, but just to kind of point out that you go 2-0 up in a game, and the next thing that happens is you get James McArthur and Odsonne Edouard go off, and Jeff Schlupp and Michael Elise come on, and you just think, wow, that is not in any way a defensive substitution. That's, first and foremost, it's getting 2 players who deserve some minutes on the pitch, some time on the pitch, but it's also making sure that we are still a very, very dangerous side. And that, just because we're 2-0 up, that idea we might relax. Well, bringing on a couple of defenders in that situation might seem logical, but at times that can send a message to the team. It can put a mentality on the pitch that, okay, the game is done, we just need to shut up shop. But if you put that different mentality on, you put 2 players on the pitch who are forward thinking, who can run with the ball, who are comfortable in possession, and ultimately can score and create. If you do that, it just gives that little bit of a push, that little bit of an emphasis to the team that you'll see the game out by continuing to do what you've been doing all game, and that's keeping the ball and attacking the opposition and not letting them settle. And that just goes back to, again, the style of play, the high press that we do. And we're not stupid with that press. That's one of the things that I really love about what Patrick Vieira has instilled into this team. We're not dumb. We don't sprint at high at high speed after every single player on the ball. We wait for our moment. We wait for the ball to be in certain areas, and then we activate that press. We don't waste energy doing it all the time. We do it at the right moments, and that's not easy to do. You have to have a really well coached, well drilled team to do that. And again, to translate those ideas, to get that much belief that quickly, it's just incredible.
It was not long after Semedo came off that we actually put Elise on the right-hand side. So Wolves have already taken off their main defensive left-back anyway. So imagine what the Wolves players are thinking. Right, we've got to concentrate down our left now because this baller is coming on. And they'd have seen what he did to John Stones last week. They'd have seen what he's done in other matches against Arsenal, for instance. So, imagine being knackered and somebody of his quality coming on. And Schlupp is quick. He's still quick. So who did he come on against? Scored late when he was told just to get in there, and I think he got a late equaliser, didn't he? That was this season, wasn't it?
My brain hurts. That was this season. Yeah, he did come on and score. But was it Leicester?
Yes, it was. It was Leicester. Yeah, well done. There you go. But it makes you think. We were talking about. You were talking about Eze and all these players that we've got now and how they're going to fit in. I don't actually think they can they, Chris? Can we have them all on the pitch at once?
No, but that's.
I mean, we'd like to see it, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's illegal, isn't it? You're not allowed to do that. But no, it's just one of those things where we will need them all, though. That's the point. It is. We talk about it a lot. It's a cliche, but it's a squad game, and more importantly, you saw against City. We played very differently against Man City than we did against Wolves. Than we had in our previous game. So having the ability to chop and change players, Can
you say that again, please? Repeat what you just said. We played differently against Man City than we did against Wolves. When would we have said that in the last 4 seasons, Chris?
Oh, God, no, never. Yeah, I know what you mean. It was the same every week, wasn't it? So, we had a bit of variation when we had a long string of bad results, I guess. But other than that, it was treat everybody the same, give everybody the same. Let's be kind and say give everybody the same respect. That's what we did. Sorry, Caragh, you've been waiting to speak for ages.
No, I just wanted to, just very quickly on the subs thing. I think one of the real positives and why I still think it's not a rush to start Elise and however we go forward when Eze comes back and whatever, doing those late subs even when it would appear like you don't really need to, you've included 3 players in this game as a part of having that win, as a part of getting that win, as playing a part on the pitch of doing that. And yes, we probably would have, seen it out even if they hadn't come on. But for the sake of the squad and for the squad staying together and that positivity being amongst the whole squad and not just the kind of a starting 11 every single time, I think even if you don't need to make those subs, it's actually worth doing it just to make sure that you're including every single one of the players in your squad as being a part of a winning team on the pitch. So even if you are bringing them on for 5 minutes at the end, they've still gone and held up the ball, the corner flag for 5 minutes and given everybody, well, all Palace fans, something to laugh about. And, it doesn't seem that important, but I think it actually is when you're going through a whole season of a player or 2 players that aren't going to get 90 minutes of football very often.
I reckon it's because we've got John Textor's money, we can afford to pay more win bonuses out so we can have more players playing.
I was genuinely surprised when the news came out that he owns between 25 and 50%. So it's obviously a fairly significant investment, and obviously a lot more shares have been created, which you would assume is the shareholding that he purchased. So, I thought he was a relatively minor investor, I have to say, who just kind of come along for the ride and was enjoying it and talking really well and getting the club. But it seems that, he's much more involved than was initially apparent. And given how he communicates and the love he's already showing for the club, it's just you can't really ask for more in somebody who's come in to get involved. So really impressed with him so far. Great engagement with the fans as well.
I think we need to get him in the singing section.
Yeah, I think he'd love that, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if he wants to join me and DR and you and the others in our away car club. I wonder if he'll join in with that. That'd be good.
Yeah, we've got a space. We've got a space for Burnley away. He's very welcome.
Spare seat for Burnley. Just one more point on the game, Chris, before we move on to listener stuff. More people are staying. i.e. not leaving early, and more people are staying when the final whistle's gone, i.e. to stand and applaud the players off, which never used to happen so often. So you're getting a club feeling again, as it's all of us. The players are always talking about the fans and the difference they're making, how they love playing in front of them. We feel like we're a club again. There's no discord anywhere, is there? Like there was with Hodgson. And, we did talk about empty stadiums last season and would he have lasted that long? It's almost everything's kind of gone in our favour, hasn't it? We nearly got we nearly got Fonseca, we nearly got another manager, and actually the bloke that we'd only half considered's come in, and it's turned out all right.
He's the perfect choice. However it came about, he's the perfect choice. But it's interesting you mentioned that. I got my brother-in-law and my nephew tickets for the game for the second time. They went to the Leicester game. It was my nephew's first game at 7 years old. I've been harping on at him for going to Palace for a long, long time. And my brother-in-law's been a Palace fan for many, many years. And finally got him along to a game. He absolutely loved the Leicester game. He was down in the family stand, so saw all of the goals that end and had the pain and the joy. So the pain of conceding, the joy of coming back into that game. And his first question at the end of that game was, when do we get to go next? Which is always a good sign. And, we've got that sign again. And it's actually, funny enough, my brother-in-law has got the passion back for Palace as well. He's, talking like, he's never seen a Palace team play like this. And so he's now, after this game, it wasn't just my nephew saying, what's the next game we go to? It's him saying it as well. And that tells you it's young and old, people who had drifted away from going to games every week, and now seeing something that they can get behind. And that's not a bad thing. I know we talk about supporting your team through thick and thin and all that kind of stuff, but everyone's a human being. And, sometimes taking that time out of your life and that money that it takes to go and support a football club home and away, it can be that much harder to do if what you're seeing is kind of soul destroying. And, it's not why we go. We don't go to win because we're Palace fans. We know that. But when you're seeing a club doing the things that we're doing right now, it does bring that feel-good feeling back. And that positivity, it feeds on, the players feed on our positivity. We feed on their positivity. And that's how we got back in the Premier League in the first place. We've all seen where Eagles dare on Prime. I'm sure we have. And we, wonderful memories of that time and that positivity and where that took us. And we're starting to see that again. And I just hope it continues. I hope nothing comes along and bursts that bubble, because undoubtedly we will have some tougher times. But right now, everything is just going in such a good direction. But we better move on. But just before we do, I know, Caragh, you wanted to mention the atmosphere a little bit before we jump on to Palace chat.
Yeah, I think it was really noticeable that the kind of song selection, if you will, in the singing section was changed up a bit. So we seem to be going through quite a few different ones and not kind of having periods of time where we were going back on the same one. And I just felt like that really kept us going quite a lot more. Like the atmosphere at the Newcastle game was a little bit flat, I think, and it was so much better this week. And what I personally really, really loved was as soon as kickoff happened, we got started with the individual kind of player chants, and I thought that was like a really nice kind of I know they probably don't hear it because they're really concentrating, but it just felt nice to be able to kind of like come out giving the individual players their kind of welcome to the game, if that makes sense. And it was just great. We didn't pause for breath, I don't think, the whole time. Didn't hear anything from the Wolves end, although we had a friend in the family stand who said they had like one chant that they were just doing over and over again, and it was really boring. So glad that I didn't get to hear them, because it wouldn't have been worth it. But no, the atmosphere was just absolutely incredible, and long may it continue.
You're in the HF, aren't you, near them? Can you please get them to do a Joel Wall chant? All we could muster in the family stand was player of the month every time he got the ball.
I'll do that.
It's not the best chant, that, is it? I mean, I remember you singing one not that long ago, Nick.
Not that long ago, it was about 8 years, mate.
8 years ago, when we were called something else. I think. But there we go. All right, that's great stuff. Look, some general Palace chat. We're going to have to skip through a bit of it because we waxed lyrical for so long about another great win. But I think the Eze question is a tough one about how does he come back in. I think for now, I'll just say that, if you think about where there's a gap in the team, you do struggle to find one. He was playing obviously wide left in a midfield 4 last year. He can play central, but the role that would be more appropriate for him is how Conor Gallagher plays, and I don't see him displacing Gallagher at all. So it's about trying to find the right place for him and the right system for him. But if I was to look at who starts and who I would take out, I really struggle. And Edouard is playing out of position to some degree and doing a fantastic job, but I would like to see him central. But Benteke has led the line brilliantly, and you don't want to see him come out. For a while I've said Ayew is a really hard worker, is absolutely integral, especially in games when we're going to see less of the ball and we need someone to work on that right-hand side. But, in an attacking sense is not really getting the goals and assists that we kind of need from at the Premier League level. So, I would say his place was at risk, but it didn't start. And, we had Zaha, Edouard and Benteke, and none of them deserved to be dropped. And you look at the midfield, we're doing really well having Gallagher in with MacArthur, who's having an outstanding season. Kouyate is in for Luca at the moment. But whichever one of them starts is doing well, and you've got Will Hughes snapping at the heels to get back in there, and Riederwald was back on the bench at the weekend. So, to even start talking about how you fit Eze into that, I just have absolutely no idea. But what I would say is you want to try and find a way, because he is an incredible talent. So I think, we might be in a place where a bit of squad rotation has to happen. But ultimately, it's going to be about form and results to see where those opportunities will come. That's all I can really think of there. But cool.
I think what's important as well is that we are. I mean, if we manage to go through the season without having any other injuries, then we'll be doing incredibly well. So there'll also be a part of it that will be dictated by luck and about who is available at what time. But also, I think what's really important is that we've got a manager that, like we touched upon it earlier, and I think people are coming around to this as well, is that we've got a manager that we trust to do that rotation and do it well, and put out a team that is kind of tailored for the opposition, or to beat the opposition, I should say. And so it's not a bad problem to have. I think if you had this selection and this kind of problem in inverted commas before, it'll be like, oh God, what are we going to do with it? But now it's like, oh my God, I'm so excited to see what we're going to do with it. And that's really nice. And just a quick shout out to Eze, because it is we're obviously recording this on the Sunday, and it's a year today since his first goal for Palace.
Oh wow!
That beautiful Leeds victory at Selhurst, which unfortunately had no fans for us to celebrate there. But yeah, a year today since that goal, so that's passed pretty quick, I think.
Yeah, wow, really has. Yeah, it just seems odd the fact that we haven't had the pleasure of celebrating Eze scoring or even playing for Palace at packed Selhurst Park either. So that'll be that's long overdue.
That Arsenal game, wasn't it, last season when we were finally allowed back in and he got injured on that morning?
Yeah. Tragic. But he's on his way back. 90 minutes for the 23s. But I think that'll be he'll be gradually eased back into things. But let's not forget as well, even without.
Sorry.
Thanks, Nick. Even without the any suspensions or injuries or anything like that, one of the things that we really struggled with, when we had the whole project restart, and when we had, should we say, the decision to kind of keep the same team every week last year, was that some of the players really did struggle when particularly when the games came thick and fast, when it was 3 games in a week, something like that. And that's going to happen around that Christmas period as well. So that's a time where you need a squad. You need, Eze will get an opportunity in the Christmas period if he remains fit and there are no setbacks or anything like that. Similarly, people like, I think probably Klein, I think, any of the midfielders who haven't had an opportunity yet or aren't playing regularly, they will get their opportunities through that period as well. Because I mean, I take MacArthur as an example, and he never ceases to amaze me with his energy. But quite rightly taken off after 80 minutes and given 10 minutes rest. But asking him to play 3 games in a week, 3 weeks in a row, kind of thing, that's too much, and that's where people get injured, and that's where people lose form. So the fact that we've got that ability to get those players in at that point is great.
If you know that the manager isn't going to change the team, you're not going to put as much effort in, are you? If you know you've got players in the squad on the wings that, as you said, are nipping at your heels, you're going to up your game, aren't you? Simply because you want to stay in the team. It's simple, really, but it's something that seemed to be forgotten about by Mr. Stoic.
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. If you pick the favourites, again, you go back to the conversations, and look, we've got to move on from him to a point because he did a wonderful job. But when he said things like, "I'm not going to play young players because I have to pick the senior players over them," you just think, that's weird. That's a really weird thing to say. Just I will pick these players irrespective of form because they are senior players.
They buy me the best wine.
Yeah, they find the best wine. Yeah, well, let's not forget the Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Was that Wan-Bissaka? No, it was Brandon Pierrick. He should have bought him a bottle of wine for giving him 5 minutes off the bench. Anyway, let's move on. I know we've talked about John Textor already, and you've got that tweet in there. His new Saturday routine. I'm going to read it because it leads us into the next point of discussion, which we'll do as quick as we can. He said, "I love my new Saturday routine. Start the day with the stream of the 18s, the 23s and the CPFC women. Watch our big Eagles fly. Celebrate with a pint. Open my inbox to see a few hundred reminders about Conor and count the days till the next game up the Palace," which is, again, lovely to see. He clearly gets the club, loves engaging with the fans. And that takes us nicely onto the subject of Conor Gallagher, which let's very quickly talk about it. I mean, first of all, they say never fall in love with a lone player too late. It's way, way, way too late. Now, going back to the message I received from my friend who's a Chelsea fan, he said, Gallagher's a quality player, isn't he? And he has a friend-family connection with Gallagher, and said that they've talked about for years what a player he's going to be. And my reply to him was, look, I look at him. And if you want to compare him to a Chelsea player, I compare him to Lampard. And I say this without any sense of irony at all, I think he has the potential to be better. Considering that's a player who played at the very top level and scored, well over 100 goals from midfield. I just think Gallagher has more to offer, in terms of being a box-to-box player, in terms of his confidence and ability on the ball, the strength of both feet. The set piece delivery, everything that he gives, but that energy and that enthusiasm, he at times he can carry a team on his own. He's rightly being talked about for international recognition, and unfortunately, his manager at Chelsea spoke about him last week and said, "How can you fail to notice Conor Gallagher when he's, the best player for every single week in every single game he plays?" So.
Maybe we need to bench him for a couple of weeks so that they notice him for a bit. Just get him on the radar for a little bit.
Exactly right. I mean, you've asked in our notes here, what are we willing to sell or contribute to his transfer fee? So.
Listen, I think we need to get this out. We need to make sure that Texter, that everyone knows that we are serious. We all need to, make a decision about what I in the pub stupidly pledged a kidney, so I've gone quite hard with what I'm willing to part with to keep Conor Gallagher. So what are you guys willing to sell to contribute?
I've just bought a house, so that I was going to say my sense of self-worth, but that went years ago.
Yeah, you gave that away a very, very long time ago. Chances of signing him, the only thing that could ever work in our favour on that is who Chelsea go out and buy. If Gallagher, you only have to look at Loftus-Cheek. Broke into the England squad whilst playing at Palace, went back to Chelsea, rightly expecting to kick on, and didn't. They bought additional midfielders, Kovacic, and others. All brought in. He suffered again with some injury issues, and he's played a few games I think this season, but he's wasted the next 2 years of his career by going back. And Conor Gallagher would probably, even at his current level of ability, not play every week for Chelsea. No. Even now. And if they then go out and sign players like they can, pretty much on a whim, and they're probably going to want to do, given the money that's coming in at Newcastle, the money still being flung around by Man City, the money being flung around by Liverpool, the fact that they're doing really well this season, but to stay there, they're going to have to spend money. And that ultimately might be the only thing that works in our favour, given that Gallagher is thriving at Palace. And you don't, as a player, you can't put a price on being settled, happy, playing in a team that suits your style. And if he makes the England squad as a Palace player on loan from Chelsea, what else does he need? If we keep going the way we're going, we'll take him on our own Champions League adventure. Nick,
yeah, I mean, I'm convinced a lot of these teams buy players not to play them, but to stop other teams having them, simply for that reason. Which is really cynical, but
I can remember Chelsea buying Scott Parker for that reason. So they bought him so Charlton didn't have him. It was quite amusing. Anyway, happy days. We did have more, but we're going to have to move on. Just a quick nod to we mentioned earlier that we had a really difficult start to the season, but looking at the next few fixtures, if we reach the standards that we have set for ourselves in those next fixtures, we could be. Well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, because I've already said we're going to head for the Champions League, so I don't know how much more ahead of myself I can get. But
I reckon we can say now: are we going to get to Christmas unbeaten?
Yeah, I mean,
why not?
Why not? Indeed. Look,
a lot depends on whether Man United get a new manager, I think, and who the new Villa manager is, because they're all getting rid of their managers before they play Palace.
Maybe that's an opportunity for Roy to come back into the Premier League.
There you go. I think Agent Roy is made for him. Okay, we'll have a quick break for a sponsor, and then we'll be back with some listener content. Support for Back of the Nest is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and they've just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with its exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code BOTN at manscaped.com. So it's a wonderful piece of kit. Not all of us have got the product at the moment. I've got the previous generation, which was magnificent and leaves you feeling very smooth and very clean. I have to say, Nick, I know you're a Manscaped aficionado as well, actually. So, talk to me about your experiences, please.
It's just fantastic. I mean, I'm old, really old, and I thought, it's for the kids. But if you want to get rid of your chafing, get shaving. I'm going to copyright
Love
that.
it. Yeah, copyright that. That was beautiful. Yeah. I mean, obviously, anyone who's tried to trim downstairs without the right piece of kit will have experienced moments of chafing, as you say, and you don't want nicks either. You really don't. And I don't mean you, Nick, of course.
No, that's how my dad thought of his name. Not shaving his balls, but shaving his face. That's how he thought my name. I'm a bit jealous though, because I know Mike and Patrick in America has got the 4.0. That's got wireless charging, man. I have to plug mine in the wall. This isn't fair.
Absolutely right. Your dog seems furious about this. And they've engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer, focusing on intelligent functionality and for an incredible, comfortable grooming experience. So the 4th generation trimmer has a cutting-edge ceramic blade and reduces those accidents.
Sorry, did you say comfortables? That's another good one.
Oh, that is a good one, actually. Yeah, good point. Yeah. You can customize your trim through additional guard lengths with sizes 1 to 4. As you say, Nick, the wireless charging. I mean, basically, if you've been shaving with the same nut trimmer on your face, you've been doing it wrong. No person wants to end up with pubes in their mouth. I'm not sure I should have said that. It's in the read, but I feel bad about that now. But hey, the words are out there. We're not going to edit it out. So do join us. Get 20% off, free shipping with the code BOTN at manscaped.com. Your balls will thank you. TM. Okay, well, it is time for some 4-word reviews. I am confused by the table in front of me because I'm an old man and I don't understand things anymore. But I think we're just going to read it in a certain order. I've got this right. So, Kevin, that's Kevin Taste. Kevin T. Aster. Kevin has said top half of table.
PQ, Mr. _P_Q, dangerous plus clean sheet.
Nick?
Oh, I was muted. Richard Agius, another classy Palace performance.
You're going with Agius. Agius? What do you reckon? Get in touch, Richard. Neil Koska, team of the 20s. That's great.
Charleston Athletic, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Charleston Athletic, love it. Anyway.
This next one sounds like one of your sound effects, Chris, because the name is Fatunch. At Bella Bite Me. Different from last season.
At Laurie Bullet, or below, another 2-0 win.
Eddie CPFC, he's at Goaler 937300986. The 93,730,986th goaler. A VAR good day, like it, Eddie.
Judge at Ahobdel. I don't know if that's all one word or not, but we're going to go with it. Our midfielders won it.
Mark in CHS. That's at Mark in CHS. Or is it Mark Inches? Who knows? It's all coming together.
I'm really happy that I started reading out the ats in the way I did. Anyway, Leaf Anderson's forehead at 50p head Leaf, which is still one of my favourite Twitter names ever. Holy shit, we're good.
David Fraser, Davey F73 or Davey 73 maybe. Who knows?
Davey.
Totally deserved 3 points.
And CPFC Birch at Henry Silamas Birch. I moaned last season, or when Pardew, when we beat Chelsea and everyone's going, oh, we're going to Europe, we're going to Europe. He said, get them passports ready. I'm actually with him now. I'm my cynicism, and I don't think it's going to go tits up. I'm just so full of confidence.
Can I just say, though, Nick, Henry Silas Birch.
Yes. I've got to format this table better next time, haven't I, really?
Yes, please, yes. It just encouraged ridiculousness, and it's entirely your fault.
The listeners love it,
look, we have plenty of contact, and I'm really sorry, we have overrun the show, so I'm going to have to bring it to a fairly rapid conclusion if I can. So I'm going to read a few of these out, and if there's a few questions in there that we have covered, we might try to answer them. But Ebo's got in touch and said, how good was IU's cameo? Loves to hold the ball up by a corner flag. I think we chatted about the corner flag incident already, but fantastic stuff. And again, another good player to come off the bench and when we need him. Leif Anderson's forehead, the aforementioned, has just said that is this the best squad and manager since the brilliant 1991 squad? I think it could be. I've just answered my own question. Well, thanks for answering your own question. One more point followed up with closed thread after that, which amused me. But I do have to say this, and I might get hated by some people of a certain vintage, similar vintage to my own for this. But going back to the brilliant 90 to 91 squad, who finished third in the league and were incredible. In terms of the football being played under Vieira is far, far better than anything we produced in that period. We were a very functional, direct side who used the individual talent perfectly. We were tactically brilliantly balanced, and we kicked lumps out of people. We were an excellent side. But if you're talking about pure football and talent and ability, I think Leaf, it really is. I think it surpasses the 1991 squad, and who knows? Maybe the final league position will represent that nicely. Am I pushing that too far again? Yes, I am.
Can I tell you something that's going to make you feel even more vintage?
Yep.
I wasn't born for that season.
No,
unacceptable. No,
Soz, guys.
I mean, no, it's okay. Look, at least you're not DR, who was born in 2000, which is literally yesterday.
DR, who Mikey accused of sending his own fan mail into back of the desk today in our WhatsApp, which amused me.
Yeah, honestly, I can't believe he started emailing in praise for himself. Honestly,
and then drafted his own response to himself.
I don't think he's got the time, to be honest. The sheer amount of work he does for Back of the Nest is keeping us going, isn't he?
He's doing fantastically. We're really proud of him. There you go. How about that? Anyway, Louis Tidy has said that we all know we want Gallagher to sign, but realistically, if he doesn't, who will his replacement be? And Ebo has given that answer already. There you go. Jacob Fieri has gone with his defensive midfield, our biggest need. Can be in January or the summer. I think it's an interesting point. Ebo's come back in with the fact that Luca Chiarte and Will Hughes, why would we need another? But it's an interesting point, whether all of those players mentioned. I think Hughes definitely, I agree with Ebo, is a long-term signing and someone who will start to feature not too long from now. And we do still have Riedewald in there, who you would think would thrive in the way we're playing right now. But you can never have too many good players. And I dare say, my feeling is still that we need more strength at fullback before we look at the midfield. Purely because who's really back up for Tyreek, and is Klein adequate backup for Wardy at the moment, and how long's Ferguson from fit? I do think that the fullback area needs thinking about, but for once we don't need to think about too much in Jan, I don't think. And it was a similar question from Felix Jameson around who we selling and who we buying come January. For the first time in a long, long time, I don't want to see too much happen in January. Let's keep the momentum, and if we need to buy somebody, it will be because we've got some injuries or some issues somewhere else, and fingers crossed that happens.
Save all our money for Conor. Save it up.
Exactly.
Save those.
Exactly right. We had some other messages in from Will Pickering, Stephen Barton, and Stephen Sheffield, all talking about the positivity. One certainly Williams talking about should we get. I do like this actually. I'm going to read it. Should I get Conor's name on my shirt? Should my son get Conor's name on his shirt? He really wants to, but he's had Wan-Bissaka, Hennessy, and Andros, so he has a potential shirt player leaving kiss of death. Answer there, Will, is a straight no.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. All right, I absolutely hero worship Conor Gallagher, but if your son is responsible for making players leave, never, ever, ever will he get Conor Gallagher's name on his shirt.
Did he get?
That's just how it is.
Did he get Sorloff a couple of seasons ago?
I'm not even sure Sorloff got that. So anyway, Stephen Barton was talking about the fact that he's confused about not going for weeks without the disappointment of losing, and how confusing that is. I don't know what's going on, as has been referenced by the fact this show has been weirdly positive and odd. But there you go. And Steve Sheffield talking about a good performance from Palace, but giving some abuse, well-deserved abuse towards Moutinho and Ait-Nouri for their theatrics on the pitch, which we didn't need to focus on because ultimately it didn't matter. So we will end there. Massive thank you to Nick and Caragh for being on the show first and foremost. A huge thank you to me for producing the show today, and obviously Mikey for eventually editing this. And obviously thank you to you for listening and everybody who got in touch. As we say each time, we do read everything that you send in, but we really appreciate it all. We can't possibly use it all, but in terms of reading it out, but we do read it all and shape the show around what you say. So keep it coming. The preview team will obviously be back after the international break to look ahead to the game against Burnley, who of course managed to hold leaders Chelsea at the weekend. And as ever, there's plenty more content for you across all our social accounts and a wealth of live and recorded shows over on YouTube, which includes instant match reaction and a chance to get involved yourself. So find us on everything. Just search Back of the Nest and you'll just like, subscribe and be merry. So until next time, come on you Palace.